Hey, welcome back to Living in the Greater Toronto Area. And my name is Clement. I'm with Remax Realtron. I'm a real estate broker here in the GTA. And on this channel, we mainly focus on everything to do with real estate. And today we have a very good topic we're going to be talking about. A lot of you might be in this type of situation. So it's going to be a good one. And we're going to be talking about why people buy and sell, or you could even say why they sell and buy at the same time. Now, one thing I want to say here, if you are in this type of situation where you need to buy and sell first, and you want to buy first, most likely you are in a seller's market. Yeah. And if you want to sell, then buy, right here, most likely you are in a buyer's market. I'm going to really explain this as we go. But when I'm going through all this, you want to really be careful on the kind of market you're in. Just pay attention to the type of market you're in so that you know what option works best for you. Buy and sell, sell or buy. Towards the end, I'll give you the personal option that I think is always good, or let's call it the professional side of what I always think is good throughout the experience of what I've gone through in the business for the last 8 years per se. So let's really get into it here. So why do people buy and sell at the same time? Now, when we look at this, we have a number of reasons here. The first one here is people need more space. You might need more space because let's say you might have your kids are getting bigger. You've been living in this one space which has been cozy and you're happy with it, but now you just need that extra space. Or you might have, which happens for a lot of people, where clients are coming, not clients, but parents are moving back in and you want to support your parents. So you need that extra space. So there's a lot of reason for why some people might need more space. The other side is downsizing. Now, again, your kids have grown bigger, you want, and they've moved out, and now you're there in the house by yourself, husband, wife, or maybe just by yourself, and you don't want to deal with a big house. It feels like there's just too much space for you to clean around and do all the chores that comes with it. So you might want to downsize. Some of us call it smart sizing. So that's one of the options. Then moving cities. Moving cities is, you can say from province to province, or you're moving literally from Toronto. You want to move outside and you want to get a bigger home. You want to go maybe Whitby if you're going out east. If you want to go out west, you want to go to Mississauga. You want to go all the way to Hamilton. It doesn't matter. So moving cities is also an option depending on the situation that you're going in. Then unlocking equity. So unlocking equity is a huge one because sometimes you might want to pay some debt. You want to start a business. So, and this is one of the ways you can do it. You want to help a family member be able to purchase a home. I'm actually dealing with that right now. And they're going through this through a HELOC. So you're unlocking the equity on there. The other option here as well is lifestyle change. So lifestyle change, this is a typical one where you move. I mean, it can go in between the same as lifestyle change and downsizing or moving cities, but most of the time is you're living in a condo and you want to move into a home and you want to feel like kids, or you want to be closer to a particular school that's really good. You want to be closer to a particular gym or community. You want, like, the lifestyle change is huge. Like sometimes you want to move closer to a French community or whatever the decision is. But a lifestyle change has been a reason that I found throughout the experience why people want to buy and sell at the same time. Now let's look at this. There's really three main strategies behind this. The first one is you sell first. So now, obviously, if you choose to sell first, it's the safest for most people when they choose to sell. When you choose to sell first, there's less risk when it comes to this. So as I say here, there's no risk of owning two homes, and you know exactly how much you can spend when it comes to the property. So you're looking to upsize, and you think your property could potentially sell for at least 1 million. Now, let's say it ends up selling for 1.1, and you've already purchased something that's fairly small. And then you realize I could have just waited to know how much more I could do. Or you want to know how much money are you willing to put on a down payment to reduce your monthly payment. So selling first is usually the safest option, is usually the option that I always advise a lot of my clients to go with, but it also depends on the situation that you're in. Now, buying first, there's more time to shop when you're buying first because you're already sitting in your home, not unless you are in one of those rush situations. But for the most part, you have more time to shop and you can take your time. I've met some clients who have been searching for a home for the last year, 2 years. Then I come in, we set up a plan and they're able to move forward. But that's the thing. You're just taking your time when you're buying first because there's really no rush. You don't necessarily want to until you find exactly what you want. And this goes particularly for those buyers who are looking for a specific type of property. You need your kitchen to look like this. You need a pool. So you're really in that kind of bracket. And then the other thing is you move once, and that's a good advantage. The only thing about buying first is you carry 2 temporary mortgages. You need a bridge to do this. And I'm going to break this down a little bit. So for a bridge, this is only if, this is a home that you bought. This is a home you're selling. And this time period here, when you haven't sold this property this year, this period could either be could go for 2 days up until a month to even 2 months. And this period here is what we call a bridge. One thing you should know, there's $1 for it. It's costly. It's not a free thing. So sometimes you might be paying interest only, or you might be paying on both mortgages on both properties. So you really want to have a clear understanding on the bridging. So we're going to get into detail about this as well. Now, the third strategy really is buy and sell with a conditional plan in there. Now, a lot of times people don't realize this, but this could also be costly. And I'll explain here because you put in an offer conditional. So picture yourself, you're selling your home. You get a conditional offer. Let's say you're selling your home for, I'll use the same example, $1 million. And this is the number that you want. And somebody's bringing you an offer conditionally on them, contingent on them selling their home. You'd want this to be more lucrative to the seller if you're approaching this from a buyer's perspective. And you might say, I'll put an offer $1,020,000. So this $20,000 is the cost, where somebody else can come in with an exactly $1 million offer and their offer is lower than yours, but the seller will potentially go with this one. Or it could be vice versa, where the seller is accepting the offer with the buyer contingent on them finding another home. So this option here, this strategy, it's a good strategy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not work. It depends on the kind of market that you're in. It's an easier said than done condition. A lot of times in the market that we're in, it could potentially not work, but it's an option that is there. I always say go with one of these 2 options, usually the one that a lot of people go with. And if we end up having to go with this, we could try it, but just know we'll always break down the costly value behind it. So the timing plan. It's good to understand the plan behind the selling and the plan behind the buying side on what is involved in that. So if you're selling, you want to make sure your home valuation is done, and the home valuation, you can either get an appraisal in there, you can get somebody like myself, a real estate broker, to come and do a quick walkthrough with you, and we go through some of the properties and what values you can sell your home by, depending on what has sold in your neighborhood. And from there, we'll get the right pricing strategy. So that is important. Then we'll know if we're going to do either staging or cleaning or repairs. So a lot of times people think sellers have fallen into the bracket where they feel like they might have to do a repair, but really all you need to do is just some sort of staging, and you don't have to pay an extra cost in there. Then there's the photography, the videography to market your home. Then the listing launch plan. So typically we have a plan on when we'll put the lockbox in there, we'll put the for sale sign in there, when are we going to do the open houses. All these things, the planning behind that is very important, because that is going to help on the buying side. So let's say you're selling first, then you're going to buy, or you're buying first. You need to understand the time period behind this, so that you can, let's say you're buying as well. You have to get your full pre-approval. I would say this year, you do it whether you're buying first or selling first. Even if you're selling first, still do the buying plan, get the full pre-approval to know the kind of home you could potentially purchase, and make sure you know what the monthly payments are. Once you understand what the monthly payments do look like, it will influence the kind of home that how much you're willing to sell your home for. And you'll realize, okay, maybe I don't have enough equity in here for me to buy the home that I want, because I'm going to be paying extra, particularly if you're trying to downsize. It might not work out. Or sometimes if you're looking to upsize, you might realize I can pay the same amount, or just with an extra $200 to $300 per month, I might end up buying a fairly bigger home, and we get the space that we're looking at. So that's why understanding the monthly payment is very important here. So search for flexible closing. Typically, I'll say a good flexible closing here, but in this type of scenario, the sweetest spot obviously is 90 to 120 days. If you're able to get that, that's amazing. But you just want to make sure you're not putting yourself in a situation where you end up selling within 30 days and you have to buy. So if you're buying first, I always say 90 days minimum. It will allow you to sell. You'll still have pressure, but it will give you some window to sell your property in good time. Then understand the days of market. This is important. So once, depending on the market that you're in, let's say the market like today, properties are selling within 40 to 60 days. So once you understand that, you can kind of plan out, okay, so if I buy first, I'll have this amount of days. But now you have to look at the type of home you have. And this is why the selling plan comes in. You have to look at the type of home that you have. Will it sell within the time period that you're looking at? Because there's no miracle here. The seller that you're buying from has been in the market for 40 days. Don't expect any sort of miracle on your selling side as well. Now, unless obviously your pricing strategy is just completely different and you're really approaching things in a certain type of way. Obviously, this is why the planning is very important, to know where you sit in and around. Now, coordinating closings, same day closing, I'll say just a quick rule of thumb here, and there's no rule anywhere with this. This is just something that I try to apply for my business, for all my clients. You want your closing to end either on a Wednesday or on a Tuesday. So if you have your closing date either on a Tuesday or Wednesday, just because sometimes Monday's a holiday. If Monday's a holiday, you're missing out on a whole weekend. Or if you're closing on a Friday and the lawyers don't get their money in the trust account on time, you'll have to wait until Monday to get it done. So usually Tuesday or Wednesday is usually the sweetest spot. That way the lawyers have the time for the money to go in on time. Even if it goes in the next day, on, let's say, on a Thursday, it's still a business days when they'll be there, and it's just going to be a note between the lawyers, and you're not going through any sort of extra cost per se. So let's say the same day closing. Typically, by law, all closings should be done by 6 p.m. This is a real estate law when you're looking at the same day type of closing. So you're buying and selling on the same day. There's a lot of pressure on this. So planning is very important. You have to make sure everything is executed correctly, because there's a lot of things that are just out of your own control. If a buyer, and it's out of the buyer or the seller's control, because the buyer is dependent on the lender sending the money into the lawyer's trust account, and the deposit coming from the real estate company. So sometimes it could be a situation where the bank is holding the money, or the way the lawyer is sending the funds, either through a check or EFT. Whatever the scenario is, there could be issues in there. There could be some things. So just prepare for that. Then the short gap, 2 to 5 days, the long. So this here, just know there's a cost here. Typically, there's a cost for this gap. It's not a free thing. So there's a bridge. Let's say if you're renting, you have to rent a hotel. So let's say rental. If you're renting a storage. So typically there is a cost here. even lawyer fees for that extension time. If it's a longer gap, so you're looking at a month, 2 weeks, just know for this right here, the coordination for that, there's always a cost in between there. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at the coordination for the closing. Now, let's look at the financial breakdown. If you're buying and selling, so typically you have the deposit and the down payment. These two here are fairly much the same. So the deposit is part of the down payment, is not an extra cost. So this, if you're giving 5% of the purchase price and your down payment is 20%, so this goes here. So you're looking at 15% after on the closing date. So this is part of it. The other cost is the inspection. The other cost here is the movers. Then you have the closing cost. The closing cost, you're looking at the lawyer fee. You're looking at land transfer tax. So there's things on the land transfer tax here that you should know. If you're buying in Toronto, you do have 2 land transfer taxes that you have to pay. So there's obviously the provincial land transfer tax, and there's the municipal land transfer tax. And this is very much dependent on the purchase price. If you're buying outside Toronto, the land transfer tax, you're only paying 1 land transfer tax. And this is just the provincial land transfer tax that you're paying here. So let's look at the selling cost. The selling cost, you're looking at staging, the realtor fee. So for this, depending on what the agent that you're using, sometimes there's packages behind this, and this could be in and around the same package. So it just depends on how it's done for you. For me, I have packages for all my seller clients, and usually whichever package you choose, it depends on how this cost is going to look like. Then there's the repairs. There's the mortgage penalty. This is very important to understand. Sometimes there's a fixed mortgage penalty that you have to pay, or sometimes you're just paying 2 to 3 months interest rate worth of interest rate for a mortgage penalty if you're breaking it. If you're in a sweet spot of a refinance, where you're not refinance, when you're renewing your mortgage, then obviously there's no penalty at that time. Then there's the lawyer fees on both sides that you have to also encounter. So let's look at the team you need. So obviously I had to put my name in there as a simple plug there. So you need a real estate agent, a real estate broker, which the realtor will help you in pricing. They'll help you in marketing. They'll help you with negotiating and the timeline to coordinate what you need and some of the offer strategies that you kind of want to go through with this. Usually I like to have a net sheet for all my clients, all my seller clients that I'm meeting. I usually have a net sheet which we break down all the numbers, and through these numbers, it helps make the decision of what you need to do, the timing of when you can do it, because you can clearly see the trail of where all this money is going for, like all this financial and net sheet. The net sheet that I provide for all my clients that I meet covers all this cost, and you're able to see a complete trail or a journey of where this is going to be. And this decision does not end up being a lot of guesswork. You now have a clear idea. Obviously, what we'll not know is the exact time of when your property will sell or the exact time of when you'll be able to buy the home that you're looking for. But what will be clear is the finances, the process, and how this is going to look. You'll know all the costs that are going to incur. And what I always try to do is to make sure you're in a position where you're not having any sort of surprises in this whole flow of things. And this is where the realtor comes, and it's important to sit down with one to have a good understanding of how that looks like. So sure, send me a quick text if you want to have this conversation going on. I'll be glad to just take you through this whole process and see what would happen, and see also just find out you and I working together does make sense, then the next thing here is a mortgage broker. Mortgage broker is good to have. If you already have your own mortgage broker, that's fine. Still reach out to me and I'll be able to sit down with you on the realtor side. But if you have your own mortgage broker, good. If you don't have a mortgage broker, we do have a mortgage broker in our team that we can show you whichever option that you want, and the mortgage broker will help you get a pre-approval. You might not get a pre-approval letter, but you'll have a good understanding of the price and where you stand. The other thing that'll help you calculate your bridge, you'll get a good idea of where you're standing in terms of your bridge, or how much that could potentially cost you. Then the closing funds, everything that we've just looked at, or there's the rate lock. So you could potentially be able to, if you find a rate that's incredibly good right now, you can lock down a rate as well. And I think you can lock it down for a period of 120 days. So that's about 4 months, which is a good thing. And you lock it in as you're trying to sell the home. So that whole period is going on very well. So the smooth transition flow becomes a lot more clear for you, and you have a good idea of how this looks like for you. So now let's look at some of the pros and the cons of buying and selling. So the pros, there's the smooth transition, which is amazing, stress-free. You don't feel good. You don't feel anxious. You're not worried, and you're in a position where you know how everything is going, the steps of what's going on, and obviously the real estate agent that you're working with does help with this, because there's a clear plan and there's pretty much a checkbox, and you're moving through the flow of things. Unlock your equity, so that's a huge thing. You're able to access funds from your property. Your property has done a good job for you, and you're able to now access that equity to do whatever it is you want to do. You move once, you control both transactions, which is an amazing thing as well. Then the cons, also the timing must be perfect. You have to make sure you have the most perfect timing. And this is the stressful part, particularly if the timing is just off. So you always want to give yourself a good window. That way you're not putting yourself in a completely stressful situation. Then there's two big decisions that you have to make. Obviously, you're selling and buying, or vice versa. The emotional pressure that is in there, I usually try to eliminate all that pressure. And the best way to eliminate this pressure is by understanding every little thing that you're doing, understanding the whole plan, and you're able to just go back to it. And if something is off, the communication between you and your real estate broker is very important. Then the financial complexity, it's important to understand how the finances look. However bad or good they are, just have a clear understanding of this, because this is huge. Just because you have all this equity in your property does not mean you just flaunt it and you just move forward and like, I have this, I can buy this. That's where the mistakes really do come in. So understand the complexity behind all this to be able to move forward. Now, if you need any more information regarding the process and how to go about this, just scan this QR code here. It will take you through the steps on whether you want to buy first or whether you want to sell first, and I'll get the information. I'll be able to reach out to you right away. Or if you just want to have a good information of the value of your home to see what that looks like, just let me know. We can set up a meeting where I can come down to you. Or if you want to have it online as well on Zoom, just select the option that works out best for you, and I'll be able to sit down with you and go through whatever you need on that front. But until next time, see you on the next one. Thank you.